there's something strange, something that feels too big to be called simply a world tour. When the news about Jungkook World Tour 2025 began to leak to the public, the reaction of the internet was not just wow or when will the tickets go on sale, but rather, this is serious, or is it part of something bigger? Because from the way this news is spreading to the small details that appear one by one, it all feels mysterious. It's as if the world is being prepared for a cultural experiment and Jungkook, without us knowing it, is at the center of it. But the question is, what exactly is he doing? Is this a tour or a hidden plan to change the course of the global music industry? Just look at the release pattern. Usually, major artists will announce the city, date, promoter, then tickets are sold simultaneously. But this time, there is no structure. There is no schedule. What emerges instead are pieces of information from various parts of the world, from Seoul, London, LA to Jakarta, all claiming that their cities are being surveyed for concert venues. So, who's really in control? The management, the label, or fans? Because if it's true that this tour is designed based on social media data, it means that the fans are the ones who decide where Jungkook should perform. And if so, is this an artist-curated tour? Or by the global digital masses who idolize him? One thing is clear. This concept makes many in the music industry uneasy. Major labels in America began to question. If tour decisions can be determined by engagement, what is the fate of the traditional system that has been arranged by promoters and big sponsors? Is the power of the online community now strong enough to shift that billion-dollar system? And is Jungkook aware that he is paving the way for a new model that could change the entire world concert ecosystem? But perhaps that is precisely its purpose. Because if we pay attention, Jungkook's journey since Golden does feel like a series of strategic steps to free himself from the limitations of the old system. He began appearing at global events without conventional promotional patterns, choosing release timings that did not follow the American label's calendar, and even led the visual direction of Calvin Klein's campaigns, with ideas that reportedly came directly from him, not from the agency. Is this world tour the final chapter of that process? Then another question arises. Why now? Why, after 2 years of relative calm, Jungkook suddenly set up a project of this magnitude in the same year when many other HYBE artists were focusing on post-military promotions? Is this tour purely about the music, or is there a veiled message behind it? Could this be a signal that Jungkook is asserting his independence from the industrial structure that has confined many artists to the same system? And what if, just what if, it's not just about a concert, but a global social experiment that proves one thing, that cultural power no longer comes from the West. That now one Asian artist can take full control of the entertainment world, not through the power of labels, but through the digital trust of millions of people around the world. But even if that's the case, a deeper question arises. Who really benefits the most from this system? Fans? Jungkook? Or is it precisely the company behind big data that governs the flow of digital engagement? Because behind the narrative of a tour for fans, there could be more complicated business interests. It could be that every click, every upload, every hashtag that fans use is being harnessed for something bigger, like global cultural consumption data collection. So, are we watching a concert, or are we part of a new generation of marketing experiments? To this day, no one really knows. Even entertainment industry analysts are confused. Some said it was pure innovation. Others called it a huge risk that could change the course of the music business. But one thing they agreed on, only Jungkook was brave enough to do it. Because to challenge a system as big as the global music industry, you need more than popularity. You need influence, control, and public trust at an almost untouchable level. And Jungkook somehow has it all. So, the question now is no longer, will Jungkook succeed with this tour? But, what will remain of the music industry after this tour is over? Will the old system stand? Or will everything change? Because one person decided to rewrite the way the world sees concerts, music, and the power of fans. And if that's the case, are we ready to live in a new world of music, where global stars like Jungkook aren't just performing on stage, they're in control of the stage itself? Imagine it this way. On the one hand, we see a free-appearing Jungkook, conquering the world with charm and seemingly self-contained strategy. But on the other hand, there is a big question that is starting to arise among fans and industry watchers. Is it true that Jungkook is completely free? Because behind every grand stage, every lighted poster in Times Square, and every seemingly spontaneous global promotional move, there is always a long shadow, a shadow named HYBE. Now the shadow seems to be moving again. From the beginning, HYBE was known as the agency that had the most aggressive business strategy in the Korean music industry. They're not just printing stars, they're building an ecosystem from labels to technology to the metaverse. But interestingly, during Jungkook's solo tenure, this pattern looked a little different. He seemed out of control. Not entirely subject to HYBE's typical promotional pattern, not following the usually uniform release system between artists under that label. Many analysts suspect that Jungkook and HYBE's relationship is now more like two big powers negotiating direction. And this 2025 World Tour, it could be the testing point. If we pull back, since the success of the Golden Album, there have been many signs that Jungkook began to play outside the fence. He worked with global producers without the full interference of HYBE, collaborated with Calvin Klein with visual freedom rarely afforded to other artists, and even took strategic promotional decisions that felt more personal than corporate. But behind the scenes, many in the industry are beginning to wonder, did HYBE really let that go? Or were they just waiting for the right moment to take back control? A source from the industry once even mentioned in an unofficial interview that HYBE never really let go of anyone, they just adjusted the form of control. The phrase resonated in the fan community, because if so, is Jungkook's world tour actually a freedom move, or part of HYBE's much larger plan to dominate the global market through one of their most powerful names? Let's look at it from the business side. The year is 2025, and HYBE is facing an important time. Some of the mainstay artists have just finished their military service, and the global K-pop market is a little shaky. Data showed a decline in Korean music exports in some Western countries after BTS's boom began to subside. But amid that uncertainty, Jungkook's name surged higher in the American and European markets. That is, the only big card HYBE has to keep their global dominance is him. So, is Jungkook's world tour solely about music and fans, or is it an economic mission? Interestingly, since the news of this tour began to spread, all promotional media remained tied to HYBE's digital assets. Ads, announcements, even leaked teasers, everything goes to the official channels of the company. But Jungkook's own movements, both through his personal social media and interactions with fans, feel like they are out of orbit. This is what makes a new theory emerge. Is Jungkook trying to balance two forces, an independent career and a label watching him closely from afar? This is where the conflict gets interesting. Because if it's true that Jungkook is negotiating positions, the 2025 World Tour is not just a concert, but a statement of power. a way to prove that an artist's influence can now match the structure of Asia's largest music corporation. But of course, HYBE is not a company that stands still. They understand that if Jungkook is too free, they could lose their most valuable asset. So it's natural for a lot of speculation to arise. From a possible contract restructuring to HYBE's plans to utilize this tour's engagement data as a global map for their next artists. However, in the midst of all that, there is one thing that cannot be denied. The world is changing, and HYBE knew they couldn't control the music like they used to. Now, the power no longer comes from the label, but from the emotional connection between artist and fan. And in that relationship, Jungkook was in an almost untouchable position. Because who can stop someone who is already a symbol of freedom for millions of people around the world? The big question now is no longer whether HYBE can control Jungkook, but whether they dare to lose him. Because in an era where one upload can shake up the stock market, and one tour decision can set the direction of a global industry perhaps, only Jungkook still has the power to make the music world really tremble. Jungkook will be touring the world in 2025. One big question arises. Is the music industry ready for the scale he brings? Because it's not just about the concert, it's about how one individual can change the global system that has been run by major labels. Imagine, typically when a K-pop artist tours, everything is controlled by a major agency, from schedules, locations, promotions, to sponsorship contracts. But Jungkook, he has cultivated a global image through Calvin Klein international campaigns and direct links with the Western media. That is, he is no longer completely dependent on the traditional K-pop promotion system. And this is where the question arises. Will Jungkook become the first Korean artist to self-organize a world tour with a Western-style model, like Taylor Swift or Beyoncé, under his own name, rather than just a BTS member? If so, it will shake the foundations of the Asian entertainment industry. The big labels must be nervous. Because if Jungkook proves that one artist can arrange a global tour without a super strict agency system, it paves the way for a new generation of Korean musicians who are more independent and more global-minded. Moreover, rumor has it that the concept of the tour will combine fashion shows, immersive performances, and live cinematic experiences. If that's true, then it's not just the music scene that's changing. It's the whole way we watch concerts that's also evolving. So the question, can this still be called a world tour? Or is this the beginning of an entertainment revolution where Jungkook is no longer just a singer, but a pioneer of a new form of the world music industry? Because if we look at his tracks from the release of his solo album Golden, collaborations with American labels, to his strategic relationships with global brands, it all seems to lead to one thing. Jungkook is building his own version of an entertainment empire. And perhaps, when the tour is finally announced, the world will just come to its senses. Jungkook is no longer part of the music system. He is the new system itself. Is the world ready? Or will this be the moment when the music industry realizes that old standards have been officially broken? Because what makes all this even more mysterious, Jungkook hasn't said anything yet. There are no official announcements, no leaked details, not even a cryptic teaser on the official account. But somehow, rumors about the Jungkook World Tour 2025 spread like wildfire in the dry forest. The question is, how can something that has not been confirmed make the whole industry tremble? Usually, concert rumors are just gossip, but not this time. Several major promoters in the US and Europe are rumored to have already set aside slots for the possibility of the tour. That meant that, even without confirmation, they prepared as if it had definitely happened. and it shook the global promotion system. Because in the music world, the real power doesn't come from announcements, it comes from market expectations. If Jungkook's name alone can move the logistics of concerts in different countries without official contracts, then we're talking about a level of influence that many Western superstars don't even have. But there is another side that makes one wonder. Is this all really part of Jungkook's own strategy, or a larger global strategy involving HYBE, American labels, and even brands like Calvin Klein? Because if this tour is not just a music tour, but also a live visual and fashion platform conceptualized with a brand, then we are witnessing a new hybrid form between the music, fashion, and technology industries. Imagine a stage, but also a runway, concert, but also an interactive experience. A format that can be watched live, but also broadcast cinematically with movie quality, not just live stream. If that's the case, then Jungkook won't just be touring, he'll be setting a new standard for the entire entertainment world. And it raises sharp questions. Are the old labels ready to lose control of their own global concert system? Or will they try to follow suit, even if it means changing the whole way they do business? Jungkook hasn't said a word, but his silence was louder than any announcement.